Sweet friend, welcome into the Her Unlocked podcast. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you. Hi.
I was just sharing with the women listening in that I feel like we became fast friends, fast clients, fast everything. Over the last, I feel it's like only been like 5 months, maybe 4 months.
March, so whatever that is.
Yeah.
5 months.
And I kind of feel like I've known you all my life. I know that like sounds really cliche,
Yeah. But
but
it
it's
does. Like,
right.
I can't imagine you not in my life now.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like from a friendship perspective, a mom perspective, um, and just like the work that we're doing together, both because we both are clients of each other's too, which is really fun. And I've been loving having women like you come on to the Become.Her series to just allow you to share a bit of your story and your story of becoming her. Because I know, and I know your story pretty well at this point, but there are these pivotal moments that you talk about really changing things for you and really owning who you are and confidently stepping into this version of you, this ever evolving version of you is something we talk about. And I'm just excited for you to share your story with the woman listening in, because I know there are so many other women out there that are at that pivotal point where they're like, gosh, I've put my kids first. I put my family first. I've done all these things. And I just feel like I haven't put my own oxygen mask on. And so I want to give you the floor to share a little bit of your story, and then we'll just kind of have a conversation from there. I've got a few other questions to ask you, and then we'll also chat about our client relationship, because I'd love for her to hear how this work, the subconscious work, has played into it too.
Yeah, that sounds good. I think that my story kind of starts 2 years ago. I was at a really dark place. I was super depressed, super angry and resentful, anxious, and I just remember thinking like something's got to change. Um, And it kind of started for me with fitness, like moving my body. And that's something my therapist had been telling me for years. But I just was like, I'm a busy mom. My kids get up at 4:30. I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
And I randomly met some lady that I followed on Instagram at a local park. And she was a coach for like health and fitness. So that's kind of where it started, was putting myself first for 30 minutes a day. And then my mental health started to improve. And so from there, I was like, okay, what else can I do? Because I'd spent years doing all the therapy, reading all the books, and it only could get me so far. So I knew I needed something else. And I just felt really stuck. And I don't know, somehow I saw female founders on, I don't know, Facebook or something. And I'd kind of already listened to Nikki's podcast. So I was just like, yeah, I'm going. Um, And I don't know, that's where I met you. And that's where I kind of just started thinking like maybe this is the next step, like the deeper work that I need, because I'd spent years doing all of kind of, I wouldn't say therapy's surface,
No.
but it wasn't getting deep enough for me. And so, yeah, we started working together and I feel like things started getting into place. I realized what I needed to change to be a better mom, to um, scale my business, to go full time in my business. And so it's just kind of been a journey over the last 2 years of really like being okay with putting myself first, getting rid of that like mom guilt, and realizing like the ripple effect of like, oh, my family's happier because I'm happier and I'm taking care of myself. And I think society kind of tells us that that's wrong. Like we have to put our kids first. And so, yeah, once I started living true to myself and figuring out what I needed, my whole family was happier.
Okay, I love that. And there's a piece of your story too, right? You are a mamapreneur. And so when did you step in? Was that before kind of that 2 year mark? Was it around that 2 year mark? Kind of how does that, like, because I know there's been some mom guilt around that, not only pouring into yourself, but also pouring into the work that you love. So can you share a little bit about that piece too?
Yeah, so I became an entrepreneur when my son was born because he had some like health challenges, and it ended up being unresolved allergies, but it took 18 months and 7 doctors for them to determine. So it was like really hard. He was
Yeah.
colicky and like slept maybe 3 hours a night. And I was working full time from home on maternity leave when all this was going on. I didn't really take maternity leave. And so just like postpartum anxiety, depression was really bad. And I was like, I either need to quit or go part time from home and stay from home. And that job allowed me to do that, but we still needed additional income. And so that's where I kind of started my own business in graphic design, because I had been doing it. Actually started with like wedding invitations for friends. And I was like,
Okay.
oh, I could make money doing this on the side. This was pre Canva and all that, where you can do it a lot easily now. But, and then from there, I just decided I really loved it. And I started teaching myself like the strategy behind it and more of the design skills in the program, and realized I could do brands and websites. And so it kind of just grew from there.
I love that. What lights you up most about that work?
Um, Honestly, so recently I niched down to working with just mompreneurs, and that is what lights me up, because I see so much of myself in the moms that I work with. Like they desperately want to find a way to follow their passions while also being present moms. And I mentioned society before. I feel like there's like two avenues. You can stay home or you can be the working mom. And like I really believe in showing moms there's like a third way. And so I get to use my creativity to like help them bring their passions and dreams to life. And that's my favorite part. So the clients are my favorite. I mean, a lot of them become like lifelong friends.
I mean, as it should. We do this work and we love it, and we help shift things for people, and you get to know people at a deeper level. So I can deeply relate to that.
Yeah.
Uh, okay. So the other thing I want to ask you about is that kind of moment where you were like, okay, you were kind of like, I've read the books, I'm doing therapy, I'm doing all these things, but like something seems to be missing. And then we got to know each other. You got to know a little bit of the work that I do. You've been through a variety of my experiences, and I want you to share kind of your initial feeling around it, because I feel like it's common.
Mhm.
And kind of when you thought of subconscious reprogramming and some of the techniques and different things that you were going to experience, like what was your initial thinking, and then why did you still continue to pursue it after that?
Yeah, I think my initial thought was that it was a little woo. But also I had been exposed to more like of that world a little bit before. So I was I was a little hesitant but also open, because like I said, I was like, okay, nothing else is working. And at that point when I was like in that really dark place, like I was ready to like leave my marriage, like just like be done with it all. And so I was like, well, it couldn't hurt to try one more thing. And then I think, another thing that's hard for me is like financially, like spending money on myself is really hard. So I like with you, I like dipped my toe in with like I think the smallest offer you
Yeah.
have. And then
Yeah.
like once I saw like the result of that, I was like, okay, I'm all in. And so I was just like, what else can I do? What else can I add on? And the more that like you do such a good job of like educating so that it doesn't feel, by the time you're in the program and in the coaching, it doesn't really feel woo anymore. It just like it makes sense with the science that you talk about and all of that. And I do have a background in psychology, so I'm intrigued about with that stuff too. So I think I was in. Also just like meeting you. I was like, okay, yeah, she's it.
I feel the same about you. And I think like there's no coincidences when you meet people. And it's like you were talking about with clients, like all my clients are close friends. And either we started as friends and became clients or vice versa.
Mhm.
Um, because the women doing this work are women I want to be around. Like
Right.
you're more empowered, you're confident, you're leaning in, you hold space for other people, like, and you in particular, your heart is so beautiful. Like I feel like anytime people are around you, like you just feel, you make people feel seen.
Mm.
Like, and I love that about you. And it's why like I'm just so grateful that we are also like created a friendship out of this, because I want more people like you in my life.
Oh, you're
And I
making me cry
just
now.
this does happen on the podcast because
Okay,
I do
well,
bring a lot of
maybe.
my I do bring a lot of my close friends and clients on here, and I've watched what you have walked through and what others have walked through, and it's my absolute honor getting to do that. I know you feel that way about working with clients, and I know you felt that way when we worked together, for you to kind of help me rebrand, refresh, build a website, all the things. By the way, check out the website in the show notes. Bethany created it, and it was she talks a lot about co-creation, which I love. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but a little plug to go check out the website, because it is so fun, so vibrant, and like it takes you on a journey, which is exactly what I wanted. And if you're not new here, you've seen the evolution of my brand, and I just went through another evolution of it because of the work with Bethany, because the colors and a few things with the fonts and just wasn't vibing the way we wanted it. So Bethany helped update that and all the things. And I think that that's such a gift of yours too, of like knowing when something isn't aligning with someone's brand, even if they feel, initially it can be hard to hear,
Right.
because everyone is so close, right? Their brands are like, they're a part of who they are. And at the same time, you're there to help them really make sure that it's in alignment to them, because it'll attract the clients that they're looking for, which is exactly what you did for me. So thank
Yeah.
you.
Well, it was one of my favorite projects, so
It was a fun and a labor of love. Let's
yes,
call
it
it
definitely
that. A
was.
labor of love. Um, okay, so I want to go back. You talked briefly a little bit about mom guilt.
Mhm.
And I have to believe that mom guilt doesn't just go away. And so I'm curious if there's a mom listening in. You talked a little bit about like doing the physical work, the mind work, and what happens now. Now that you've kind of done some of this work where you're a bit more equipped with different tools and kind of a different mindset and skills, like what do you do with mom guilt now? And how can she maybe combat mom guilt also?
Yeah, honestly, it does not come up as often as it used to. Um, like I'm trying to like think of a time, honestly. Probably when my youngest started kindergarten and he had a really hard week. It's just hard not to feel guilty that you're like not there. But I think I just reflect back on the summer and just like every time I like stayed the course, the benefit was worth, any momentary feeling that I was having. Um, and just knowing that like my goal as a parent is to make him independent. So
Mm,
even though it's hard in that moment, like he needs to do this, whether it's at kindergarten, like if I don't allow it to happen this year, it's going to happen next year. And so just like reminding myself, like this is the course, this is part of the process. And um, he's only going to get secure if he has that space for me. And so like even when I'm working on my business or things like that, it's just like I want to be an example to them of like you can follow your passions and your dreams, you can create the life that you want, even if it looks different than what the world says. So I just remind myself of my why, I guess, whenever thoughts come up.
I love that. And I feel like you were kind of alluding to kind of that power of the pause, where it's like you pause
Mhm.
and you reflect and you kind of, like you said, tell yourself like this, stay the course. Like we've seen what happens when we stay the course. And I think a lot of times we operate where we're just like on to the next, like so much going on that most of us don't give ourselves space to even pause like that. And so then it becomes a spiral from there. And so I love that you kind of reinforce that, hey, like if you can just take a moment to pause and like reflect and look at the benefit of this, that can shake out a lot of that mom guilt. And I also think it's beautiful that you're like, I actually don't experience it nearly as much as I used to, which is the whole goal too. So I love that.
Yeah, I was thinking of something the other day of just, um, oh great, now I lost it.
I love that. We said sometimes that happens. Sometimes that
If it
happens.
comes back, I'll come. I'll let you know.
Beautiful. Something related to the pause and
Yeah, and motherhood.
and motherhood. We'll get back to that, which again is very hard to do in life, but also very hard to do in motherhood when there's so many needs to be met and so much that's being asked of us.
Mhm.
And so you talked about physical health, you talk about the mindset. And so what are you doing on a daily basis to take care of your well-being? What kind of practices do you have in place, whether it be daily or weekly, that really help you pour into you?
Yeah, I think the main thing is I have like normal working hours now that both my kids are in school.
Mm-hmm.
And so staying within those hours is really important. I've been tempted to be like, oh, but I could work after they go to bed. So that's a big thing. And then movement, I try to do that like 3 to 5 times a week. Just like fueling my body. Like I have some allergy stuff. So just like making sure what I fuel my body with is good, or, I shouldn't say good, but like what I
Yeah.
need.
Yes.
Um, Reading is I make sure to spend time reading every day. I make sure to walk every day. And even just like working from home, ensuring that I prioritize my work. Like I try to just like, I pack a lunch, I stay in my office so I'm not like distracted by like, oh, the laundry, oh, I should be
Love
doing this.
that.
Um, yeah. And then just, I don't know, listening to podcasts and stuff. I always am loving to like learn and grow in all areas. So,
I love that. I love that. And it's the simple things. I also just, what was, I think, great for you to share too is kind of just how you have these focused hours now and you felt that like conditioning and default, because how many years have you been working at night and on the weekends?
9.
Yeah.
Yeah, with multiple jobs, like always at least 2, sometimes 4. So it's been chaos, chaos at all times.
Yeah. And I think what's beautiful is that like your goal was to be able to be full-time in this business, not have multiple jobs when both kids were in school, which is this year's the first year, right? Your youngest is in kindergarten, which I would, me too, me too.
Yeah.
And just like looking back on the work you in particularly did this last year to get yourself there, like where do you like, was there a moment or a thing or a goal or something where you were like, oh, this is really happening? Like, is there this like moment where you're like, oh, this is actually going to happen, even though it maybe like, did it feel possible? Did it feel like, talk a little bit more about like getting to this moment where you're like, oh, I have a, like quote unquote, what feels like a normal regular schedule for you and your season. Like talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think like it was always in the back of my mind that I wanted to take the business full time when they were in school, but it felt so far away for so long. And then there was a lot of like scarcity mindset around money, like what if there's not enough, and some outside husband voices telling me that. Um, and so it didn't, it just always felt like this like one day dream.
Mm.
But I think it kind of started to shift when we did life and business blueprint first. And so we really focused on my business and where I wanted to take it, and niching down to where I wanted it to go. And so I think when I built confidence there, that was kind of the starting point of like, okay, maybe this could be something really big. And so then I think a little bit later, I was like, okay, by the end of the year, so it would have been December. And then we started our one-on-one coaching, and my subconscious was like, actually in 6 weeks. And I was like, okay, okay.
Oh, that was my favorite.
But I have learned like with you, I just have to be open. And, so I just like went all in. And I think just gaining the confidence throughout our whole work, like it was really a confidence thing for me, that I
Yeah.
could.
Yeah. Because you have all the competence and it's something like I share and, it's we think it's like we need more skills, more experiences, methods, strategy, like especially as like if you're listening in and you're a business owner, there's this feeling of like I just don't know enough to run a business or have a successful business, or like there is a lot of scarcity mindset because income is not consistent. And so working on your money mindset, which is something we worked on because that was kind of a big thing, not just for you, but a lot of my clients. And honestly, myself, I'm like walking a season. Like it doesn't always go away. I am currently walking a scarcity mindset season. And that's what's so incredible about this work and these tools and your openness. Because what happened? I like you saw some growth in your business as soon as you
Yeah.
kind of leaned into that confidence and kind of released that scarcity mindset.
Yeah, I had within, well, that first month, I was like the highest income month that I'd ever had. And so I had been told like a year before that I couldn't niche down to mompreneurs
Yeah.
because I was never going to make money. And so I had taken that to heart and I had tried to do it a different way and it just wasn't in alignment. And I think that's where the struggle was, right? Because it didn't feel good.
Yep.
So then with our time together, I realized like I don't actually have a dream to make six figures. And that
Mhm.
doesn't have to be my goal. And so then I was like, so why not? Why wouldn't I do what I'm passionate about? And I think when I really owned that, the confidence probably just came out because I was passionate about it. These are the people I wanted to talk to and work with. And so yeah, my income, I don't know, probably tripled within a month.
Yeah. Yeah. It was so incredible to watch because that's the thing. Like you decided, and that's like a big, like that sounds so simple, but it's like you decided to take radical responsibility because a lot of times we are letting our circumstances, uh, letting ourselves play victim, like that was a lot of my story where it's like, and I would never have admitted at the time that I was being a victim because no one wants to admit that. But
Yeah.
it's like I was letting my circumstances drive, so much of what I was doing. And like you were sharing this program, and there's just so much noise out there. There's so much noise. And there's so much we're consuming. I recently did a podcast about overconsumption, and it's like, like there's a place for it. We definitely need strategy and method and skills and expertise. And we need to bring people into our worlds to help with that. And yet we have a tendency to reach for that first, which is kind of what you did, right? Because you didn't know any different. Like it's like, okay, I'm going to go into this program, learn this strategy, method, approach to how I run my business. And then you put that on a foundation that wasn't ready. And then you're like, why isn't this working? And then it's like, oh, it's because it's not even in alignment to what I want. And that's just so common. And that was my story too, because I didn't know this world existed. You didn't really know this world existed, true? Like,
No, yeah, no, not really. I mean, I knew there was a
yeah,
subconscious, but I didn't know there was like people out there teaching tools.
yeah,
Um, so it was very new.
yeah. And that's kind of what was super fun about having you work on my website too, is when you've been a client and one, like you are also an ideal client because I'm desiring to reach more women who are less familiar, who are like, like you said, like done the therapy, done all these things, which are beautiful and have a place. But there's this like whole other world that can make it easier and collapse time. Doesn't mean the work's easy, right? Like you got, you got to be really vulnerable with yourself and with me or others. But you chose to lean in and do that and trust, kept showing up, trusting the process, trusting yourself. Do you feel like you learned to trust yourself a little bit more?
Yeah, I think I do. I mean, I think I've always had that like gut knowing, but I was taught from a young age to ignore that. And so I think it was like this unknowing of like to really listen to that instead of like shoving it down.
Yeah,
Um, so, and then as you see results, you get more confident, like, okay, yeah, I actually do know.
you do know. You do know. And I think that's just like a reminder to the woman listening in that if you're feeling resistance, like it's not about your competence. It's most likely about your confidence and having more confidence. And here's the thing about confidence. We can't gaslight ourselves into being confident like a lot of people, right? Like it
Right.
like I'd love to be like, I am confident, right? Like, and say it 5 times and it be a thing, which that can infuse like some for the
Right.
moment.
Right.
But it's just like what I watched for you and what you emulate and what I have experienced from you is like you like it's I can sense the confidence. I can see it. Like you don't even have to say anything, like the way you hold yourself, the way you show up, the way you show up for your clients. Um it's so good, and it just allows you to it's allowed you to just like create some really incredible things in a short amount of time.
Thank you. That means a lot.
You did it. You did it. Okay, if the woman listening in is like, yeah, that sounds great. But I just like don't have the time or there's the money piece again. I know we talked about that, but it's just like time, money, energy. Like I'm overwhelmed. I have so much going on. Like the thought of doing anything else or pouring into me, just like I just don't have the energy. Where would you encourage her to start? Or like, is there a question you'd have her think about, or, any advice for her who's kind of like, yeah, okay, cool. When things slow down, when I'm less overwhelmed, I'll get to that. I'll get to me.
Um, I think like if when I was in that place, jumping fully to working with you wouldn't have happened. Like there needed to be small steps first. So I think, like, gosh, for me, it was like, can you do it for 5 minutes a day? So say it was movement and like just starting really small. And building up. There's like habit stacking. So, like for me, coffee is like a love language. And so I was like, you can't have your coffee until you do 5 minutes of movement and just like pairing it together or something you do every day, like brush your teeth or whatever. So for me, it was like taking small steps. And it started with movement for me because that like changed my energy levels. And once I felt like I had more energy, then the other work felt more attainable. Um, and like a question, I heard this quote, I don't know where I heard it, but it's just like, are you living the life you designed or are you just reacting to the life that's
Mm.
in front of you? And that's constantly in my head. Like, I was just reacting. You go back to the victim thing. Like, I was just like, I'm a mom. I have to give up everything. My husband's job sucks. I
Yeah.
just like was reacting to what reality was and feeling like I couldn't do anything about it. And so just like starting with those 5 minute things a day that I could control that I wanted to do, that was huge for me. And um, yeah, once you start doing the small things, I feel like everything becomes easier. It's like a snowball effect.
100%. I love that. So it's kind of like, what is the thing, right? Like for her, maybe it is movement, or maybe it's journaling, or maybe if like you're a believer and it's like time with God, like five. I love that. Like give it 5 minutes. Everybody has 5 minutes. And then see what happens. Cause I've heard this too. It's like, you like just turn on the workout and do it for 5 minutes. And then most likely you're just going to keep going. Like if you have the time. Because half the battle is getting there. Half the battle is sitting down, pulling out that notebook. Half the battle is sitting down, pulling out your Bible. Half the battle is turning on the workout, or even for you, it might be like you don't eat a great breakfast. So it's like making whatever it is that's going to help sustain you. You talked a little bit about that, or drinking that water in the morning. Like it literally can be something so small. And I love that because like you said, it's a ripple effect on everything. And movement, like for me, it was health choices too, 2 years ago, because I've got a very similar story of like 2 years ago. And went on a journey for my health and myself. And that's how I actually dipped my toe into entrepreneurship, was being a quote unquote like coach for a program, which I know you have been to, because that stuff, really shifted things, and then just stack the work from there.
Yeah.
So tell her how she can connect with you if she's a mompreneur, especially, but even
Yep.
if she wants to just be inspired by your work, your story, how can she find you? How can she work with you? And is there anything else you want to leave her with?
Okay. Well, my business is called Wild Bloom Creative Studio, and I specialize in brand strategy, brand visuals, and websites for mompreneurs. And I love working with moms who are just embarking on their journey or just a few years in. And you can find me on Instagram, Wild Bloom Creative Studio, and I have a website, but I have not finished my website. So just find me on Instagram.
I love that.
Clients
Everything
come
will be in the
first.
show notes. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's coming. She's prioritized other people's websites like mine.
Yeah.
And I am a huge advocate for Bethany's work and how she co-creates things with who she works with and ensures that it is so deeply aligned to you, your customer journey, always looking to elevate your client's brand and who they are. And we've shared clients too. So I've seen your incredible work with some of my clients I've worked with. Because right, like there is the brand, and then there's also ensuring that like you have the foundation to actually go out and be confident in your brand, which
Yeah.
is the work that I do. So there's a lot of shared clients through that and shared experiences.
Yes, I'd love to do that more where we like share clients. They start with you, do all the coaching they need, and then they're ready to kind of do the branding from there.
I love it. Okay, last question for you. I love to talk about gratitude because gratitude is what breeds contentment. And when we are grateful, more flows to us. So I am curious, what are you grateful for today?
I'm grateful for just like the community I've found in the last 6 months. Like entrepreneurship can be really lonely. And so just deciding to go to female founders really just like changed everything for me. And so I've just met a lot of amazing women who are kind of in similar seasons with their business. And so I'm just really grateful because it like inspires me and we empower each other and we collaborate. And so that's like my biggest thing because it's just like pushing me forward. I'm going to keep going because I have other women, doing
Yeah.
the same thing.
Yeah, because it is. And we are not meant to do life or business alone. I think that's what's so incredible about the entrepreneur space is I feel like it's so integrated and you talk about life and you talk about business and it's all, it's a little bit different than when you have a corporate job because I feel like for most, they kind of set their 9 to 5 to the side and then there's life. Our businesses are pretty entwined with our life because we chose this route to be more present and have more time with our family while also doing something we love. So I agree with that. And for those of you who don't know, and if you're local to the Twin Cities, Female Founders Twin Cities is an incredible community of female founders who get together. We have a meetup every month. I'll put a link to grab a spot in an upcoming meetup. If you are local, we would love to see you there. It's an intimate get together where we are collaborating, connecting, and celebrating each other and just creating a really safe and trusted space, like Bethany talked about, to do life and business together. And it's run by me and the co founder, Nikki, who is a marketing genius and an incredible human. So also follow her. Bethany, I am so grateful for you for many reasons. And I'm just, like I mentioned earlier, like your heart and not just in business, but in life and like how, again, you hold space for people and you want to show up your best self. And then you ask that of others and it's just rare. Like it just is rare. And so it's something that I've always like felt really drawn to you on. And I'm just so excited that the women got to experience a little bit of that on the podcast today.
Thank you.
And so much goodness ahead for you.
Yes.
I cannot
And
wait.
you.
And me. And our friendship. All right, friend. I heart you. And for the woman listening in, I'll see you next time.
Thank you.